Hey everyone, it's OSK, and welcome to the first episode of the Valheim Survival Guide. This will be a Let's Play series along with a tutorial format, and the goal here is to provide you guys with some helpful tips on how to play and progress through Valheim while also doing it alongside you. This should be enjoyable for both you veteran players and newcomers alike, so if you are new to the game of Valheim, then feel free to follow along. I'll also give you the world seed, that way you can progress along right with me. And eventually, I plan for this to be my main Let's Play series later on, but for now, I'll play through the game through the beginning stages to show you some neat tips and tricks for Valheim. Now, to preface this, I will be playing in a solo run, meaning no friends will be joining me on this particular playthrough, and I'll be starting the run with the most recent patch at the time of this video, Valheim version 0.147.3. I can't wait for Hearth and Home and also the big combat update later on. It should be a lot of good fun. And to start this episode off, our main objectives are going to be learning the lore of the game, introducing some of the game's mechanics, creating a hammer, exploring the Meadows, and finally building our first base. It should be a really fun time, and I can't wait to get started. So let's get into creating our character and our first solo world. Sorry there, guys. We're going to start game, hit new, and this will take a little bit to load for some systems. I am currently rocking a 1080 Ti graphics card along with a CPU 6700K Intel, so it might just be a little bit on the lower end side. I'm really unaware of how great of a hardware that is nowadays, but it should be good enough for Valheim for quite a bit. I do have some settings turned off just a little bit, but for the most part, it's pretty good. Now, our name, I'm just going to name this OSK Gaming, like so. Hit done, and then we'll hit start. Now, this is where the solo and multiplayer sections come into play. You can select a new game, or if you want some of my previous worlds, I could select Start Server or Community Server. That will give us the option to put a password for both. If you just want to start server without any kind of password protection, then you can do so, and you can also hit Join Game. If you want to just go into the community, you can go ahead and make sure that that's done for you. I believe if you hit community server, it pops it up right here, and then you can then set a password for other players to join in. It doesn't seem like there are any open worlds, so it does seem to be the case. Or you can hit friends right here, see if any of your friends are on. Currently, none of mine are on, but you can leave the password open for that if you so like. We're going to be doing a solo run, so we're going to select that start server to be unselected. Going to hit new, and our new world is going to be Survival Guide, like so. And this will be our world seed that I'll plug in. It's a completely new world seed to me, but I will have this copied in the description as well as a pinned comment. So if you want to follow along with the series, you can just by simply copy and pasting this world seed right here. We're going to hit done, and we're going to start our run. Here we go. Just a quick little loading screen, and then we'll be on to the lore of Valheim. All right, here we go. We're going to start spawning in. Here's where the lore comes in, and you cannot skip this, by the way. Long ago, the All-Father Odin united the worlds. He threw down his foes and cast them into the 10th world, then split the boughs that held their prison to the world tree and left it to drift unanchored, a place of exile. For centuries, the world slumbered uneasily, but it did not die. As glacial ages passed, kingdoms rose and fell out of sight of the gods. When Odin heard his enemies were growing once again in strength, he looked to Midgard and sent his Valkyries to scour the battlefields for the greatest of their warriors. Dead to the world, they would be born again in Valheim. Now, that's the name of our 10th world here. So basically, he sent down his Valkyries to, kind of slay the best warriors of Earth so that they can be cast into the afterlife of this 10th world, Valheim. It's kind of a challenge world, and in order to ascend to Valhalla, we will need to complete some challenges and slay some forsaken gods. So here we are. This is one of the giant Valkyries that slew us. As you can see, it has some nice little vines and also some red substance. I wonder if that's our blood. But in any case, they are taking us through this world of Valheim. You can see in the corner right there that that is the world tree. It's slightly cast off, but I do like the aesthetic here with the green veins coming through and the very stormy sort of aesthetic that we have going on. And while the optimization isn't the best for this game in some places, it is well enough to go ahead and start recording. I usually get 60 FPS in most places. Of course, trees and unanchored items will cut into that, but here we go. Going to drop right in to the first section right here, to the sacrificial stones. We'll also run into our good friend Hugin here. He's kind of the tutorial guide of the game, and he will be popping up every time you discover something new. So be sure to hop on over to him and read what he has to say. Now, in our playthrough here today, I won't be doing it because I pretty much know everything he's going to say already. But if you are new to the game and you want some sort of guidance, then Hugin will be the best person to talk to. As you can see, he'll say, "Welcome to the 10th World Warrior. I am Hugin, sent here to guide you on your travels. The megaliths surrounding you are the sacrificial stones. They represent the Forsaken, which you must slay in order to ascend to Valhalla." For some reason that deer's going to run up on us, but as you can see, these are the sacrificial stones of the Forsaken. You will need to collect the head of each of the Forsaken, hang on the hook, and then you'll get a nice little buff that you'll see later on in the series. Right now, in the current state of the game, in 0.147.3, there are 5 bosses in total. There will be finished with about 8. But here we go. Going to follow Hugin right here. He'll show us the Vegvisor. This is sort of a cheat code in the game, figuratively speaking, of course. It'll show you where the next boss location is, and you can figure out the location of the boss by finding these in the game world. So these are very, very important to be looking out for. And you can see it's actually along our flight path here, and there's a little mountain region right there. Look at that. That'll be useful for later. But we do have our first location for Ichthir, which is going to be the first boss. He is right there to our southwest. So once you open up the map here, you can select M, and then it'll show you the map. This is a nice little pin. By the way, if you want to select different pins to put on the map, you simply just double-click your left click, and then you can name it whatever. Let's say we're going to call this one pin for an example. Hit enter, and now you have a pin that's named pin or whatever you decide to do. You can hit left click once to exit out, hit it again to make it appear normal again, or you can right click to then take it off of your map. And also, if you're in a multiplayer server, we're not in here on this one, but if you were, you can make yourself visible to other players by checking that box, and this symbol will appear on the map for the other players. Right now, though, we're not going to worry about it. Going to exit the map and get to collecting our first bit of materials. I just picked up a branch off the ground that'll give us a little bit of wood, and that's going to be very important for our first tool that we want to make, which is going to be a hammer. The hammer is going to allow us to build a workbench, which is going to be very good for collecting or for creating rather more complex items than what we currently have. So it is going to be very important in our run at large. We're actually right next to water too. So what we might do is, instead of collecting stone, or in addition rather, we might go ahead and pick up some flint. Flint is a very useful tool to make more upgraded versions of the workbench, as well as more upgraded axes. You can see there. This is found along the water's edge in the Meadows biome, and we will need quite a bit to make our first flint axe. Now, if you were to open up the inventory right here, I select tab for my controls. You can select that in the settings, of course. You'll see our inventory to the left and also what we can craft on the right. As you can see, we need 3 wood and 2 stone to go ahead and craft the hammer. I'm going to go ahead and get that done and put it in my 3 slot. It's my preferred place for the hammer. That way we can go ahead and get started kind of collecting our materials towards building our first workbench, which if you are to select the hammer, by selecting 3 up there in the top left with my keybinds, we can select right click, go to crafting, and see how much material we need for that workbench. We need 10 wood. Currently we have 2, so I'm going to get to work on finding the right materials, the right amount of wood to get that going. Right after I get this rather large collection of flint, actually, this is quite a bit. We'll go ahead and pick this up. Now, in order to collect a flint axe, I already know from playing the game before that you will need 6 flint to make that. We currently have 11, so more than enough. And to collect wood, what you want to do is you want to look for these skinny beech trees right here. They will be able to be damaged by punching them, and it'll also train your unarmed skill as well. Unarmed, not really too useful of a skill unless you just want to fool around with your friends, but it is going to be a useful tool for getting some early wood in the very early game. So we're going to get 10 wood. Actually, I want to get a little bit more than that, so we might even punch down a little bit more. And to make this a little bit faster, what you can do, I already know that I'm going to be making a flint axe, but your workbench also has to be protected before you're able to use it. So we're going to hit tab, or actually we have a grayling right here. This is one of the enemies that you can find in the meadow section. They are afraid of fire, so if you put out your torch right here and hold it in your hand, they will be scared off. They won't actually attack you. You can go ahead and just whack them with it, set them on fire, and finish out the fight just like that. They will drop some resin, and I believe they also might drop some wood. I might be wrong on that. I think that's only the more adult gray dwarfs, but in any case, resin's still going to be a pretty useful tool for us later on. I'm going to select tab, see how much we need for stone axe. Looks like we need 1 more little rock to get that sort of sorted out. We'll need a stone on the ground, and just look on the ground right here. If you see any rocks hanging out, you'll be able to pick it up and add to your stone collection. Looks like there's one right there. They are going to be darker in color. We'll just pick that one right up. And now we can... Oh, we actually need one more. My mistake there. Let's go ahead and find that one last little bit of stone. Oh, look, a grayling as well. Put out the fire. And he is not going to be attacking us anytime soon. They're very afraid of fire for some reason. So as long as you have a torch, that's good to go. Very good. Now, we are picking up some mushrooms on the way here on the ground. That's going to be very good for increasing your health and stamina pool. So just go ahead and give them a quick munch whenever you find them on the ground. Open up your inventory and right-click to use them. As soon as I'm done with this grayling, I'll show you how that goes. Oh, come here. There we go. Excellent. Hit tab, right-click. You can also select the raspberry so we can get the double health and stamina bonus going for those two. And that's going to be really helpful towards increasing your health and your stamina. And as you can see, our stamina bar did grow by about 2 little ticks right there. So it's very useful to find that earlier on. Mushrooms are one of the best early game food sources, so definitely make sure you're picking up every single one that you see. We're going to go ahead and say hi to Hugin, get him out of the way. Beautiful. Now we're going to craft a stone axe. That way we can start chopping down these bigger trees. I'm going to select that with my first slot. There we go. Pick up these stones, and now we can start fighting a little bit better. As you can see, we one-shot that neck, a beautiful display of strength. And now we can really get to work on these beech trees. 2 little chops will do it. Sometimes a little bit more. There we go. 2 or 3, usually the right number. So you can see we're picking up quite a bit of mushrooms. That's going to be really good for us. Now, as you might have guessed, this world in Valheim does have a day-night cycle. So it's going to be very important to notice where the sun is in the sky. Whenever you first spawn in, it'll always spawn in the eastern side of the sky. But it will travel over to the west, much like in real life. So if you want to look towards the eastern side, you can kind of see it through the trees. It's somewhere around here, and it will set to the west way over here. So you want to make sure to have at least a campfire and maybe a little bit of a base to make sure that you're not getting too cold at night. It won't do anything for your health or anything, but it will affect your stamina regen, which can mean life or death in some circumstances. You can see over there, there's a little clearing. That might be the place where I want to make my first base. Whenever you're making your base, you want to make sure to build right next to the water. And that way, you can have an easier time whenever you're later on in the game and you want to sail around. You don't have to travel between your boat and your house very far. It should cut down on your running time quite a bit and also make it easier to build your first dock, which we'll be getting into in a later episode. Now, for right now, I'm going to be collecting quite a bit of wood, making sure that I have enough materials to really supply the building of a first base. My goal here is going to be collect about 100 wood to start out with. That way we have quite a bit of material to go around. So I will go ahead and get that done. And as soon as we're done with that, I will meet you back in that clearing for our first base. All right, so here we are in that little clearing. And as you can see, we actually have a bit of a dwelling right here. I'm not actually going to keep that, but this is a perfect opportunity for me to show you guys what exactly you can find in here. Sometimes, if you're lucky, just like right now, look at what we have here. We have a nice little chest. It'll give you some early items. Ooh, gold and amber is something that we find later on in the game, and it's going to be pretty useful to go ahead and pick those up. This is actually a pretty good scenario for us to place down this workbench. Now, I will remove this just so I can show you how the building process will go, but if you find a settlement like this, you can actually leave the roof up like this and the walls. You can select your hammer as long as there is a workbench around. You can start hitting your middle mouse button to deconstruct some stuff, and you can get extra materials just like that without having to actually chop it down. So it is pretty nice if you want to just go ahead and start clearing things out just like that. We're going to go ahead and just demolish the whole rest of this. It's going to give us plenty of wood. As you can see, my wood inventory, or my inventory just outright, is getting a little bit full. You do have a limited carrying capacity, so something you want to keep in mind as you're going out throughout the world. As you can see, if you get a little bit too over encumbered, it will start to just be left on the ground. But once we return after we place a little bit more wood, you will see you will start to pick it up automatically. The game does a very nice job of not over encumbering you just outright. You actually have to intentionally do it yourself if you want that to happen. So it's a pretty nice little feature. Now that we have that cleared out, we have all the space in the world to start building our first base. This is going to be pretty simple. I'm actually going to build it a little bit within the woods because we're going to end up clearing out these trees anyway. And what I want to do is I just want to put down my workbench anywhere around here, I think is a decent distance. We're going to put it right here, right on top. And one of the easiest things to do is to get your base just started out here. So you want to go ahead and do this number right here. You want to go to your building, put down a little wooden wall, and go to the lowest part of the ground. If any part of this workbench is exposed, then it will not work for you. So you want to go ahead and just put down your 2 walls here. Put one wall on each side surrounding your workbench, like so. Choose your thatch roof 26 degrees. You can also select 45, but I like the 26 here. And now you can use it. Now, if you want to repair item real quick, you can repair for free. No resources will be taken from this. Just tap that hammer icon right within your inventory. And as you can see, our stone axe and our hammer are now back to full. And we have more space in our inventory from placing down this wood as well. So it's pretty nice. Now, we can also select a hoe. That is going to be very useful for flattening out the land around us. And we can also go ahead and craft that flint axe, which is going to be a little bit more useful than a stone axe. So we'll go ahead and replace that. We'll go ahead and select our hoe. I like putting this in the 8 slot just because it is something that you're going to be very intentional about using. And now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and re-eat now that my food icons were blinking just then. You can re-eat whenever that happens. I'm going to select hoe, and I just want to find myself a nice bit of flat ground. As you can see, I have level ground selected. Pick an area that you like the level of, and then just work yourself in a circle. That way you can get as flat a land as possible. And the base that we're going to be creating isn't going to be too complex. It's going to be one of the more simple designs you can do, but you still want the flat ground for it. Excellent. Now, as you can see, I'm kind of wrecking these greylings pretty easily. I'll have a full combat guide out in a different episode. And we'll have a bunch of nifty little tools once I get around to that. It's going to be pretty important for later stages of the game. Right now, we'll focus on building our first base. That is one of our more immediate concerns here. There we go. Nice and leveled out. I'll go ahead and clear it out just a little bit more. And one thing I forgot to show you guys, whenever you're chopping down one of these bigger trees, if you have a flint axe, you can go ahead and chop down these bigger beech trees. The birch will be kind of out of our range for the moment. But you want to go ahead and just start chopping this down. Now, whenever this starts to fall, you don't want to be anywhere near it. Just in case it starts to fall towards you, you will lose a lot of health and potentially your life if this falls on top of you. So definitely want to make sure you're standing away. And as you saw right there, sometimes the trees will fall in such a way to create a domino effect. It's pretty useful if you're looking to fell multiple trees at once. Once you have this giant log sitting here, go ahead and chop away at it. And it'll actually break up into these half logs. Once you are done chopping those down, you then get 10 wood per half log. It's pretty useful. And always make sure you're picking up these raspberry bushes as you're going along. Make sure you're chopping down all this wood. Now, my inventory is full, so I can't really pick any up. But we are going to go ahead and get to the building process before it gets dark. Get out of my way, Grayling. Get out of my life. All right. So the most simple design you can probably do, I'm just going to go ahead and do a 5x5 design. Just place down a nice little wooden floor somewhere, preferably towards an area of your flattened land where you're able to fit it. And we're just going to do a simple 5x5. Really nothing much to it. Just want to make sure you're snapping your flooring together. And as you can see, with it being put down on this flat land, it's going to be well supported. You can tell because of how blue it is right here that it is on supported ground. If you were to go to some place like this roof right here, you can see it's not connected to the ground directly. So we'll have a green color, meaning it's in good support. But as you get further and further up, that color will start to change to orange and then red, signifying that you are getting further away from the ground and it will need additional support to make sure that it's being built properly. Now, as we're building out here, you see it kind of getting to the ground. We can use our hoe to actually smoothen that out just a little bit. But I really want my 5x5 design here. A little bit finicky. There we go. All right, switch over to the hoe. Just target that ground to level it out. And now the ground is off of our flooring. Switch over to the hammer. And by the way, to use the hammer, you want to right-click every time you select it. Should have said that earlier, but now you guys know for sure. Just going to go ahead and get this out of the way. Perfect. Select our hoe. Clear off that little piece of ground if you can. Sometimes you will be in a scenario where You do need to end up mining away the ground. We're not to that point yet, but we will be getting to it sooner rather than later, I believe. Okay, now that we have our little design right here all nice and good, just go ahead and fill it all in with the rest of this wood flooring. And I collected 100 wood to start. Obviously, I've collected more since then to show you guys a few tips and tricks. But 100 wood, 200 wood, typically a good place to start out with. Gives you enough for your workbench, a little shaded area, and then you can start putting down all of your stuff. And I'll be able to get rid of that little rock there in due time, but for right now, it will have to stay because I have no way to get rid of it. Okay, for right now, just make sure that you clear out a little bit of space so that we can go ahead and place a campfire. I'm going to select this middle piece. Select misc. See, you can see that I need a little bit of extra stone, so we're going to be looking around the immediate area for any of those rocks that we were picking up earlier. We need 5 in total. Right now, I only have 1, so we're going to need to pick up 4. There's 1. Pick up some flint along the way. And you'll be able to find this on the ground pretty much anywhere. And there's our remaining 3 pieces. 1 more for good luck. As you can see, the sun is starting to set quite low, so we want to make sure to build a campfire. That way we can stay warm. And also a little bit of shelter is going to help us out as well. We have that opening over there. Select our hammer, right-click. Under misc, you'll find the campfire, and just place it on down. Excellent. Now that we have a fire, we will have an easier time staying warm throughout the night, and that will confer its blessings in the form of making sure that we don't get too cold overnight. Because if you get cold, that will start to affect your stamina regen. Same thing if you were to get into water. Having the wet status in your top right corner, right over there. Same place where we saw our fire status, as you can see right there next to the mini-map. That is going to start affecting your stamina regen, but whenever you go to building, another tip that you want to make sure you're aware of is that you need to be next to your workbench. This dotted line is the range that you can build in. You can simply just put down another workbench anywhere else. I'll go ahead and put one right here. It doesn't need to be covered or anything. You can just put one down wherever it'll be accepted, and then you go to building, and there's a new set of dotted lines you can follow. I'm not going to need this extra one, so I'll go ahead and get rid of it, but if you're building something like a dock, sometimes you will need to put extra little pieces. Go ahead and start on our roof. This is one of the easier ways to start building a house. It's going to be the simple no wall approach. Really nice aesthetic too, if I do say so myself. Gives you plenty of space with the 5x5 model, and it's typically what you want to start doing here. Now we'll go ahead and select our 45-degree beams that are going to match up with our walls here. Or if you wanted to go another route, you could do this as well. Just select the wood wall 45-degree. Probably the easier solution, all things considered. Just want to start putting these up on the edge right here. Oh, a little bit turned out too much. You can also select your middle mouse button like earlier to destroy anything built that you put up here. You can see within that we have fire, but we're not actually sheltered, so it won't actually come into effect until we build out the rest of our walls. Very important to make sure that you know that. Okay, excellent. We're also going to go ahead and build a wood gate right in the middle. We have a nice grand open door right here. When we're done, it'll be a very welcoming feeling. Once we're done, select your wood wall. Make sure the flat is faced on the outside. You can go up right next to one of your previous buildings to make sure it snaps. And then from there, it's basically just following the simple design until you are done. I'm going to go ahead and build this out right here. As you can see, what I was talking about earlier with the cold status, you will, if you're far enough away from your fire, you'll see cold right up there in the top right. If I was to run a little bit, you can see how slow my stamina regen is going up right here. But if I get out of the cold and I get right next to the fire, obviously it will start to go a little bit quicker. And then once you're sheltered and you have that all going for you, it will be even faster than that. Just going to go ahead and build out our wall here. Very simple. And then get on to our 45-degree. Very good. Just going to check on my supply of wood. I have 38 pieces left to go. Takes about 2 per piece, so just kind of plan that out there in your head. Do a little quick math. We're going to select our cross piece right here. We're going to select our roof. It's going to be the 45-degree thatch roof. Place it on over. I'm gonna place it over the top, just like so. And as you can see, what I was talking about earlier with the support, this isn't really well supported, so it will start to turn into a sort of orange color. Just want to make sure that you connect on the other side before you start placing it all the way down. As long as it's well supported, you have nothing really to worry about. Go ahead and place our roof. Excellent. We now have a roof going over the top right here. Now this will still be unsupported, so if you were to start building stuff on top of this roof, you might see it crumble. In order to prevent that, just place the rest of your roof before you do anything else. Awesome. And do the other side like so. And you are good to go. Now, the reason I'm leaving this part open for right now is that if you don't have a good ventilation system, or if you have your fireplace in a way that smoke is going to collect towards the top, it will actually accumulate in your house and then start damaging you. So definitely want to make sure you're not doing that. Also, whenever you're dealing with your wood gate, you will notice that there is going to be this larger opening. That's because the wood gate actually takes up 1.5 the height of a wall. So just make sure that you're building your wood wall half right here. Place it over the top. That way it's nice and covered. It won't actually seal up that hole completely, but it actually won't matter. And it might even actually help out with ventilation to some extent. But as you can see, this is kind of the framework of our first little building. Pretty nice, meager little design, but it will do its job fairly well. I'm going to select our hammer and actually start demolishing this little hut. We're going to move our workbench towards the inside of our settlement. And that's going to be pretty nice. Just make sure you don't run over the fire, because you will get set on fire if you're not careful. There we go. We're going to move our workbench right here to a more well-suited environment. I want to make sure that it's nice and protected. I think for right now, I'm going to put it sort of in this corner. Just tap it, make sure it's good to go. Looks like it is. Very nice. And then in order to survive the night, we can also put a bed. And this is going to get us the rested bonus. You can see in the top right, I already have it just by being under a roof and also having a comfort level. But if you were to put down the bed, making sure that you're sheltered and surrounded on all 4 sides by a roof is definitely very important. You can then claim the bed to set your new spawn point and then sleep in it throughout the night. Hugin's going to join us in the bed, so our camera's going to shake just a little bit. But once we're done with that, we'll awake straight in the morning. It won't actually be outside of the cold status for the very first part, but you can see the day number change here very shortly. I believe we'll be on day 2. Yep, there we go. And now we can go outside, and there is no more cold status. Now, there aren't really any enemies that spawn like Minecraft or anything like that, so there's nothing to worry about in terms of that. But the cold status is pretty annoying, so I want to make sure that you get rid of that. Now, we do have 7 left to go, 7 pieces of wood. I'm going to go ahead and visit our chopped tree over here just a little bit. There we go. Now we have about 19. Plenty of stuff left to go. That's a hammer icon above my workbench, so it does bleed into the house just a little bit, but it's fine. I'm going to just put a little opening right here to make sure that our fire has somewhere to escape to. And to do that, I'm just going to go on the outside right here. Want to make sure we have a nice little area for that to go out of. I'm going to actually put down a little half wall, I think, just to sort of give my roof something to build off of. The Skraeling is scared of the fire, but along the other side, he will be nice and exposed. There we go. All right, we're done with that. Say hi to Hugin. Make sure you tell him good morning. He tells you you've crafted a workbench. And Hugin can be Captain Obvious at some time, at some times here, but do enjoy his company. All right, here we go. Gonna build this out. And I'm just gonna put down these posts. I don't really have to, but it's a nice aesthetic nonetheless. All right. Excellent. And there we go. You can see it's well supported now. And we have a nice little bit of building for our campfire to go in. I'm actually going to cover it with a little piece of wall, I think. And that should give it enough ventilation to you know, vent out. I'm going to make sure that this is nice and covered as well. Fortunately, you don't have an upside down triangle formation you can put down, but this should be good. As you can see, it is venting out that little area right here. And I believe it should be doing the same right here. Let me go ahead and try to adjust this just a little bit. I am getting kind of smoked out right here. Definitely don't want that to happen. So let me do this. I'm going to destroy that little piece there. I'm going to put a wall just over the top right here, I think. Making sure it can't really get inside. This is a little bit of a new design for me as well, so I am still kind of learning it here and there. But it should be good for the most part. Go ahead and just build that right there. Kind of box it in a little bit. And then I think if I want to do the 20... I want to do the 26 level right here. That should be good. Alright, let's see how that looks on the outside. Alright, not too bad. We have a little bit of an area for the smoke to escape, and that should be okay for our design. Let's go ahead and get rid of this grayling right here. And that, my friends, is how you build your first base. Pretty nice little design. I tried to make this look a little bit nicer than some of the designs that I've seen, but we'll see if the smoke is nice and clear. Yes, it looks like it is, and we still get the fire bonus, so that is looking pretty nice. You can also just leave this part open if you want, but I like to have a nice little caged area for my fire. And as you can see, it even spreads this far away, so it is pretty nice. Well, guys, that's going to be the end of the first episode of the Valheim Survival Guide. We've made our first base, made sure it's next to water so that we'll have an easy time to sail out, and we've also explored the meadows a little bit and made sure to place it in a nice little clearing. Of course, these trees, once I need wood later on, will be cleared out, so it won't be as much of a forest, but yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that for day one. Guys, thank you so much for joining in. If you did like the first episode of the Valheim Survival Guide, please be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you'd like to see more Valheim content. I've been OSK, y'all have a great day, and I will see you all out there.